Welcome back to the show. Okay, there are many couples who are in our shoes. You know, I just got married and we are, of course, in our honeymoon phase.
And I'm still planning my wedding and we'll be there soon. So we are bringing in our relationship expert, Kat Roby, to talk about what are some issues that affect newlywed couples. And I, during the commercial break, was already asking you, well, are we talking about this or that? And I had so many questions, but you use a term that I thought was interesting that I've never heard before that's called newlywed blues.
Yeah, it can be such an exciting year or so, depending on how long you're planning these things, that's all you're focused on is this great party and this way you're finally going to be united and get to live together or not, or maybe you've already been living together, but all these things happen and then it's over. Yeah. And it's kind of like, oh, now all the excitement of that is kind of gone. Now we're into the day-to-day stuff. And so a lot of times people experience this, well, now what?
Okay.
I mean, that was kind of exciting, and we were planning a trip afterwards, and the honeymoon, and all this stuff. So it can be somewhat of a letdown because all of that's taken so much of your focus and attention, for a lot of people, not everyone, really gets shifted back into just every day. And so what does marriage look like every day? And one of the things I think we don't get a lot of is how you work a marriage, what you have to do to have a strong, fulfilling marriage. I love movies, I love TV, but we're hand-fed this idea that it just feels right, and it's great. Yeah.
And we always see that happily ever after is the big wedding.
Sure, exactly. There's the end of the story. I didn't even think of that, Heather. Exactly.
I mean, come on, what does happen after? I mean, as we were saying, you know, I've been married not even a month, and I will admit we are blissfully happy, but so busy.
Yeah.
So it's like, just finding the time to spend together is a real issue for us. I mean, what other issues do you find that newlyweds have?
Well, you're coming right into the wash of how do we do money together? How do we support each other's goals? How do we handle schedules? Or you've got 2 kids now, and so how do you handle taking to and fro and picking up and getting them involved? And you're an instant mom. So there's a lot that can come into a relationship right off the bat with a marriage. And we were talking earlier about living together. So not whether you should live together or not, but some of those things might be worked out if you've lived together, and maybe the transition won't be so hard, and maybe it's not hard at all. It's not doom and gloom, but it's easy to fall into the rut of everyday life and not remember, because you have, you know, the same living space perhaps, or the same schedule even, and you think, oh, we're spending all this time together, but it's not the time you spent together before. It's not dating, it's not very present time, it's not asking each other about each other's day necessarily, it's getting through the day. And that's okay, but that's one of the places where it's fun to kind of wake up a little bit and put a little extra energy into the relationship, and that's where I don't think we get a lot from our society, and how to do that. It is blissfully happy, and of course your chemistry is all there, but it does take a little bit extra energy to make it a strong relationship.
So if we're going into that, regardless, like you said, if we have lived together, haven't lived together, if we have kids, don't have kids, whatever's happening, are there already some adjustments that we should go into it just mentally being prepared? I think the first one is what you're saying is don't think it's just going to be boom, magic. Know that you have to go in, and this is going to take a little bit of elbow grease.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot that makes it different from your way of handling things, or even if you've lived together, maybe you haven't talked about combining finances or buying a house or some major thing that would require that both of you come to the table with your opinions and then have to deal with each other's opinions. And where does this trajectory of our life go, and how do I make my needs known? You know, so being able to come at things with I don't know, a neutral standpoint, I guess, wanting to know more about you versus I'm going to judge you because it's not the same as how I think. Things like that. Be prepared to get your buttons pushed a little bit, because things are going to be different, and it doesn't necessarily mean that person's right or wrong, or your way is right or wrong, but it can feel that way. And so oftentimes, almost every other segment we've ever talked about happens in the first year of marriage. Like, wow, it's a lot to take on and a lot to not be triggered by. And you know, I think about it too, sometimes family and friends may not be supportive of the person that we've married, or that, you know, of the couple themselves. So you may not be getting the outside support, so you may not have places to talk about how challenging it can be. And there's just a lot, I think, that goes into it. So it's important for us to stay really planted in who do I want to be at this point, you know?
Right. And I think that something that you say that really hits home for me is the communication and how sometimes we are trying to just communicate. Maybe it's even a simple thing, but the communication between the two people gets askew. So
Yeah.
do you kind of have advice or tools that we can use to sort of communicate a little bit better?
One thing I hear quite often, because I actually do a lot of premarital counseling as well, so what I hear very often, especially in newlyweds and premarital kind of cases, is they are thinking that their partner should know already. You should read their mind, so to speak. So when they hear that being the phrase that I use for such a behavior, they're like, oh no, I don't want to do that, but I don't know how to ask for what I want. It seems like it might lead to conflict. Well, conflict is the truth, and you're being honest and true and being able to say it in the most neutral way you can. But it's important to not let the other person have to read your mind. Say what you need and mean what you say. If it's, you know what, I can pick up the kids today, don't worry about it, you need to mean that and not hold a resentment about it, things like that.
Right. Oh, such great advice. Every time you come on, I really take something away, and I love that. And I know our viewers are probably watching and wondering how that they can meet with you one-on-one themselves. So I'm going to make sure they have all the information to get in touch. Kat, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
And for more relationship advice, just call Kat at 906-3392 or go online to robycounseling.com.